And with that, she wrapped herself around him again. Meg was speechless in a few seconds. This woman had breached pretty much every social propriety behind which he had so safely entrenched himself. But something in the way she looked at him and yelled his name made him equally delighted to see her too, even though he didn't have a clue who she was. Suddenly, he was overwhelmed by the scent emanating from her, and it shook him. There was the smell of flowers with overtones of gardenia and jasmine, unmistakably his mother's perfume that he kept hidden away in his little tin box. He had already been perched precariously on the precipice of emotion, and now the floating scent and attendant memories staggered him. He could feel the warmth of tears beginning to gather behind his eyes, as if they were knocking on the door of his heart. It seemed that she saw them too. It's okay, honey, you can let it all out. I know you've been hurt and I know you're angry and confused. So go ahead and let it out. It does us so good to let the waters run once in a while, the healing waters. But while Mac could not stop the tears from filling his eyes, he was not ready to let go, not yet, not with this woman. With every effort he could muster, he kept himself from falling back into the black hole of his emotions. Meanwhile, this woman stood with her arms out, stretched as if they were the very arms of his mother. He felt the presence of love. It was warm, inviting, melting. Not ready, she responded. That's okay, you did things on your terms and time. Well, come on in. Can I take your coat and that gun? You don't really need that, do you? We wouldn't want anyone to get hurt, would you? Would we? Mike wasn't sure what to do or what to say. Who was she? And how did she know? He was rooted to the spot where he stood, slowly and mechanically took up his coat. The large black woman gathered his coat and he handed her the gun, which she took from him with two fingers as if it was contaminated juices. She turned to enter the cabin. A small, distinctively Asian woman emerged from behind her. Here, let me take those, her voice sang. Obviously, she had not meant the coat or gun, but something else, and she was in front of him in a blink of an eye. He stiffened as he felt something sweep gently across his cheek. Without moving, he looked down and could see that she was busy with a fragile crystal bottle and a small brush, like those he had seen Nan and Kate use for makeup, gently removing something from his face before he could ask. She smiled and whispered, Mackenzie, we all have things we value enough to collect, don't we? His little tin box flashed through his mind. I collect tears. As she stepped back, Mac found himself involuntarily squinting in her direction, as if doing so would allow his eyes to see her better. But strangely, He still had a difficult time focusing on her. She seemed almost to shimmer in the light, and her hair blew in all directions, even though there was hardly a breeze. It was almost easier to see her out of the corner of his eye than it was to look at her directly. He then glanced past her and noticed that a third person had emerged from the cabin. This one a man. He appeared Middle Eastern and was dressed like a laborer, complete with two bats and gloves. He stood easily, leaning against the door jamb, with arms crossed in front of him, wearing jeans covering with a steno plaid shirt with sleeves rolled just above the elbows, revealing well muscled forearms. His features were pleasant enough, but he was not particularly handsome, not a man who would stick out in a crowd. But his eyes and smile lit up his face and Meg found it difficult to look away. Meg stepped back again, feeling a bit overwhelmed. Are there more of you? He asked a little uneasily. The three looked at one another and left it. Meg couldn't help but smile. No, Mackenzie. The black woman chuckled. We is all that you get, and believe me, we're more than enough. Meg tried again to look at the Asian woman. This weary-looking person appeared to be of Northern Chinese or Nepalese or even Mongolian in ethnicity. It was hard to tell though because his eyes had to work to see her at all. From her clothing, Meg assumed she was a groundskeeper or gardener. She had gloves folded into her belt, not the heavy leathers of the men, but the lightweight cloth and rubber ones that Meg himself used for yard work at home. She was dressed in plain jeans with ornamental designs at the fringes, knees covered in dirt from where she had been kneeling, and brightly colored blouse with splashes of yellow and red and blue. But he knew all this as more of an impression of her than from actually seeing her, as she seemed to pace in and out of his vision. The man then stepped in, touched Meg on the shoulder, gave him a kiss on both cheeks, and embraced him strongly. Meg knew instantly that he liked him. As they separated, the man stepped back, and the Asian lady moved toward him again, this time taking his face in both her hands. Gradually and intentionally, she moved her face closer to his, and just when he imagined she was going to kiss him, she stopped and looked deep into his eyes.